All right, TGT Media is an entertainment industry interview podcast. This is weird because I don't know where to look. It's crazy. I'll look right at you. There we go. Yeah, see, I'm looking right at your eyes there. Uh, this is an entertainment industry interview podcast where we interview the creative minds from the comic, film, music, and game publishing industry. I'm your host, Kurt. We have a wonderfully talented fellow videographer slash comic reader slash geek extraordinaire on the show. We're joined today by Alice Quinn, creator and owner of TdotComics.ca. How are you doing today, Alice?
Awesome. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I know it's been so long since we've had you on the show, about maybe 30 minutes ago. If you don't know, Alice was a co-host on TGT for last episode with Vigilante Project with Chris Dickens and Phil Morgenthaler of VigilanteProject.com. Excuse the bird in the background, but that's just Petey, the extra co-host there for the show today. He'll squawk and squawk all the way
He's here to make sure you're paying attention. So
yeah, I'd rather pay attention to you than him. So I have the oven warming at 250 with an apple ready for him, but that's beside the point. Tdot Comics, I've been to the site. I love how it's designed. We'll get into the design factor and everything along that line. But for those that have never been to Tdot Comics, what exactly is your goal for that website?
I started the concept of it back in 2007, 2008, and the original idea was to build interest in a comic shop before opening it and before making an actual bricks and mortar comic shop. Now today I don't have a comic shop. That's not in any way the goal. It's Tdot Comics is so evolved from that and in a good way. So what it's about is the comics community in Toronto and looking at these amazing creators that are making stuff in the city and bringing it to the people. And we also a lot of it is about connecting nerds. Just because, when I was in high school, I just felt like I was, the only one. And, nobody should ever have to feel like that. We live with the internet, Yeah. So that's sort of what it's about.
Definitely. Now, you have a lot of creators that we've had on the show as well, and that we've interviewed through video. And it was great to see you at Fan Expo last year, and I look forward to seeing you at Fan Expo this year. It's going to be another crazy event, I'm sure. Who are some of the creators that you've interacted with on a regular basis through Tdot Comics?
I spent a lot of time in Raid Studio. It used to be it's now called Raid. I don't know what it was called before. But hanging out with Ramon Perez and Andy Belanger and Willow Dawson and Ian and all the guys in there. We just had a ton of fun, and because I ended up going to so many of these events and stuff, and I meet the same people over and over. Actually, the first person I ever approached about doing an article with for Tdot Comics ended up being a really good friend of mine today. Zen Rankin. I talked about his Action Satisfaction Supreme, which is the first review I ever did, and now him and his wife have me over for dinner and stuff and hang out. And when he comes to the city, we always shop in Chinatown. So yeah, it's just there's some people that I speak to regularly and some people that I don't get to see as often, but it's always a treat to meet new people, and that's really what it's about.
Yeah, definitely. It's this type of industry that we're in is amazing in itself because just the talent and the access they have, not only for their own creative process, but for the contacts that they get to meet and a friend of a friend. It's not what you know these days. It's who you know. And, it goes for job hunting, goes for whatever else in that regard. And you're in Toronto. You're in the big city of Ontario, Canada here. You have 5-6 million people, and a good majority of that are focused on comics, on film, on TV, and they're just out there. The processes they go through, the people they meet, and I'm glad you're showcasing that too, because you're not just about reviews though. You also do video interviews, and you have your own TV show.
Well, web show, not really TV show, but yeah, it's not about me. It's not about Tdot Comics. It's about showcasing the talent in Toronto and to introduce people to amazing comics. You know, like, that's really what it's about. And I just try to, like, you know, when it comes to, like, video, I like video better. And so that's a good format for me, but other people like reviews. So, you know, like, I try to diversify and do that. And now we have a webcomic on the site that we can use to, like, commentate on, like, what's going on in the industry. So, yeah, it's just really about bringing it to the people on as many platforms as possible.
Oh, definitely. And, you know, with the comic you're referring to is, of course, Bagged and Bored, created by James Cooper, actually.
Yeah, James Cooper and Zach Ellis. It's really fun when they first approached me for it last summer, being all like, all right, so we have this comic, it's fully formed, we have 4 strips already, like, sending it to you. Can we do it on your site? Because we don't want to have to deal with, like, web hosting and figuring out how to do it. We just want to make the comic. And I'm like, yeah, for sure. I'll figure out how to do it. I'll get my code person on that. And the really funny thing was they approached me about it, and I talked to my buddy, my producer, Sean Ward, and I was like, yeah, so we're going to have this webcomic on the site. It's awesome. He's like, they're going to put you in it? And I'm like, I don't know. I didn't really say anything. He's like, you should totally ask. You should totally get them to put you in it because it's your site, and you should rock that. And I'm like, sure. So I show up in a couple issues, which is fun. They totally get my character right. There's this one strip where where I'm totally disinterested, and then this guy, like, the idea is, like, I work in a comic shop. This guy, Brandon, brings me skull kickers, and I'm like, oh, skull kickers! Oh my god! And it's so true. I've already interviewed Jim Zub, like, twice. I have, like, volumes. So it's a lot of fun. I love Lord.
Yeah, no, it's a great comic. We got to talk to James when he did about his comic ban, and got to talk to those guys and Dave and all that. And I have their book. You know, it was amazing. Got him to sign it, so I know that's going to be worth something in the future for sure. You know, just in general, you have such a great functioning website as well, because the reason, you know, we go to sites like this, like TGT, like TdotComics, is for the content that they have there. And with your site, it's well designed, it's well laid out, you know, colorful. You know, I like colors. It's a good thing. And it's not heavy on the graphics, and that's key. You have it well laid out, and that's wonderful to see. But you said this is a redesign. I think we were talking in the green room about that, though.
Yeah.
What exactly did you want to change from the previous version to this version?
Well, we discussed before about, like, the best way to start things is to just do it. So when I started TdotComics, I just I registered a Ning back in the day, and just did TdotComics.ning, and that's more of a forum site. So it was very different the way it was laid out. Yes, I wrote articles, but the way the site was based was more discussion-based, and because there wasn't a lot of discussion going on in the comments, it didn't really make sense. And after we used the site for a while, Ning decided to upgrade their services and start to charge everybody for it, and I'm like, well, if I'm going to be paying for a website, I might as well take this opportunity, redesign my website, and make it something that I really want to represent what we're doing. So we started planning it summer of 2010, and it ended up being made, and we relaunched March 2011.
Very good, very good. You mentioned Ramon Perez, amazing artist. I mean, I'm just the words cannot describe. Have you seen Tale of Sand yet?
Oh my god, I love it so much. I actually interviewed him on Quintessential Comics just before it came out, and it's like, the style of the comic itself is gorgeous. The thing I love most about Ramon's art is that he tailors it to fit the content. Depending on what he's doing, like, his art on Kukaburi is different than his art on Butternut Squash, that is different than his art on Tale of Sand. He really tailors it to the product, and I think, like, it blows me away every time.
Yeah, we got to see a bit of his. He had a bit of a panel going on when Archia was announcing it, and luckily we got 5 minutes with him because we beat out like a G4 and stuff like that for the interview. It's like, yes, score for the little guy.
Score!
But no, it was beautiful. You know, he was I was a bit awestruck because I've loved his work on Kookaburra and all that stuff. And
also, he's like a super handsome dude. I know
oh,
what it is about older men with beards, but like they totally turn my crank.
yeah, if I was like that, I would totally go for it as well, for sure. Um, but yeah, the different art styles that you interact with, you know, you've been doing this a while. You've been a reader of comics for a while. You know, what have you seen in terms of the evolution of the art of comics?
Well, I'm really interested to see how it's going to evolve now that Marvel and DC are publishing digital comics, and now that everything is going into that platform. I'm interested to see if issues ever die. Personally, I don't read issues. I don't see a point for it. The only time I ever buy issues is if I'm at a convention and there's like an indie comic and they have an issue out. That's when I'll buy an issue. But I never go to a comic book store weekly and buy issues of Marvel and DC stuff. It just doesn't make sense. So, like, I'm really interested right now to see how the industry evolves past that and with the digital age, and because they're having trouble with sales and stuff, and they're trying to do these reboots and whatnot, and I just find it's just boring.
Yeah.
They're just trying too hard. Like, just bring it back to the basics. So yeah, there's like a lot of like comics that I've really loved seeing the progression of it. You know, stuff that I've funded on Kickstarter or whatever, and seeing it come to life and seeing how the internet has helped evolve comics and web comics developing and stuff. So like, it's really interesting, and it's like such an ongoing thing, you know, that I feel like I can never take my eyes off of it. I'm always looking for new comics online. I'm always looking at what people are doing now, you know?
Definitely. And, you know, there's a great site that I was just turned to a couple of weeks ago. I'd seen it in the past, but I hadn't really gotten to talk with its creator, and that's Brian King from inkoutbreak.com. I think that's an amazing site if you haven't been to it.
Yeah.
And,
I haven't been to it recently. I signed up when it first started, but it was still very rough then, so I'm sure it's much better now. So that's actually, thanks for reminding me about that, because you have to check that out, because I find with webcomics, I like reading things. I like reading whole stories. I like reading things in a series. So I do well with catching up on webcomics. If there's something I've never heard of before, I'll sit through the archives and read the whole thing. But then I'll forget to come back the next week. I don't do that whole weekly content thing. That for me, that's like TV. TV is weekly content. Comics, I like getting graphic novel. I like having the full story, you know?
Right. And, you know, especially with when it comes to video interviews, colored me a little jealous on this, but you got to speak with the Lost Girl cast, Anna Silk and Zoe. Can't think of her last name.
Oh, actually, it was
oh no, it was Kenzie. Sorry, Kenzie. Sorry.
It was really amazing. And since then, I've actually done a couple other interviews that'll actually blow that one out of the water. So, but yeah, like mainly it's just about going after what you want. You know, like I didn't contact them before the convention, but I went to the booth and I gave them my card, and I'm like, listen, I'd really love to do an interview with Anna Silk and Ksenia Solo. Like, just let me know where I gotta be. Let me know if you know what I gotta do. I just want to get this. Let's get it done. And I kept coming back, and I met with her publicist, and I kept coming back and talking with them. I'm like, all right, well, we're really busy, but we can fit in 10 minutes here. Just do it here at the booth. I'm like, yes, perfect. Let's do it. And I feel like that's how a lot of stuff gets done. Last week, I'm going to name drop here. Last week, I helped out with the Epic Nerd Show. Chris Hardwick, the Nerdist, came to town, and he played at the Comedy Bar. And I volunteered to help out with the show, so I was there for all 4 shows. I left work early and like hung out with them all day, just so I could get this interview. And Ian was all like, "Oh, well, maybe we'll be able to do it after lunch. So, you know, come with us to space, bring us lunch, that'll be excuse. You can bring us lunch and come to space. And I was like, all right. And so I didn't end up bringing them lunch because he got it at the airport. And I'm sorry, I'm just like going off on a tangent here. Bear with me. And I ended up hanging out with them all day. And they're like, oh, can we do the interview with the show? And I was like, okay. So I figured maybe before the show. So I bring all my stuff, get all camera ready, get my contacts in, whatever. And, they're like, okay, we have no time. Maybe after the show, in between the shows. Between the show, there was no time. I ended up getting this interview at like 1:45 in the morning on Friday night. After like my eyes are like dying. I've had my contacts in for like 8 hours. It was so worth it. And it ended up being a really good interview. And because I had spent some time around Chris before the interview, I wasn't super nervous. Which like I was that morning. Like that morning I woke up and I was like freaking out. So it ended up turning out for the best,
I'm jealous. Yeah, oh yeah. No, you definitely have tenacity for sure. You definitely go after what you want. But yeah, I'm jealous. Yeah, geez, I'm gonna stop the interview now.
Sorry.
That's all right.
It also helps that like I'm a relatively decent looking girl. Like, sorry, I'm really bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I use that to my advantage.
Yeah, I don't have the legs for some of the stuff to wear, so I can't help you on that. But I have to go by my Canadian charm. And my subtle.
You got that. You got that working for you.
But you've been doing this for a good number of years. You keep at it. Passion. I keep coming back to passion because it's what we do. It's what we enjoy doing. What were some of the difficulties that you had when you first started TdotComics?
Well, the main difficulty was like trying to explain it to people who didn't understand it. Like I had to justify to my mom like why I was spending so much time on the computer. Because like I started this when I was like 17, 18, so I was like still living at home and stuff. My parents didn't get it. Now they're starting to understand more how this isn't, this is a stepping stone. This isn't the be-all and end-all. Isn't going to be T.Dot.Comics that, like Alice Quinn is going to, continue on from that. But that was a really big problem for me was like my mom being like, maybe you should spend more time doing this or, working at your day jobs. But so that was a big problem for me because, like without the support of your family, you just don't feel like in it, Also, another thing was finding other people who were doing what I was doing and doing it better. Like there's certain like nerd girls or something. I'm not gonna like name names or whatever, but who have like sort of like a foundation of people around them who are like building them up, like writers and producers and people who are getting them stuff. I write and I produce and I do all that stuff on my own, so it's like really hard to get that there. And also another thing, there's lots of hardships, man. Lots of hardships.
Right.
Lots of obstacles, but you just gotta persevere. Another thing is I never spent any money promoting the site. I've only really promoted it through word of mouth, through Twitter, through Facebook, through going to conventions and being there in person and like giving out cards. I never like purchased advertising on a site. So I find, like even though the site's gotten quite big and a lot of people know about it, our numbers are still low because the people that know about it are mostly Toronto-centric people and people have heard it through Twitter, through Facebook and stuff. So it's a, other thing. But it's really just about looking, like, when you get to those parts, when you get to those hardships, I mean, you'd be like, oh, why am I doing this? Like, why am I spending all this time doing this? You just gotta remember, like, you're doing this because you love it and you have fun. And you gotta forget that, you don't make any money. And you gotta forget that, your parents don't agree or that other people are doing it better. You just gotta keep doing it. And, try to do what you're doing a little bit better, like, every day.
I definitely understand that. Especially when it comes down to the parents thing, you get a lot of, well, why are you doing this? Why don't you become a denturist? That would work out well for you. you know, we have all these foundations, or you should go back to school. And I agree. You know, going back to school is fine with everything if you have a focus as to what you want to build up with. Because doing this, being a personality in a radio show, in TV, in web production, in everything like that, these goals, these skill sets that we're building up on can't be taught. You have to experience them yourself.
Yeah.
Like I'm.
Sorry,
Go
continue.
ahead. No. Go.
Yeah, that was a big thing for me too, was school. My mom was like, "Oh, well, you really like doing this business. Why don't you go to business school?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't really know if business is really the part of it that I really like. Maybe, you know, like I like doing like the video. Maybe I should do like TV or acting programs." But then again, like I hate the acting scene. I acted a bit when I was younger, and I just found the whole audition process like completely nerve-wracking and terrible. And I like doing it on my own. When I have only myself to rely on for it, I only have myself to blame for like when I drop the ball or when I screw up and stuff. So I can't be like, oh well, you know, that other girl was prettier, so she got the part, or whatever it may be. Just yeah, and you know, like when I was, you know, when I started this, I was younger and I never really had a steady job. I probably had 20 jobs in between the time I was 15 and 20. Like, and it was just something I could put my creative energy into. Something I could, you know, build myself and be proud of. And something I never got job satisfaction from selling records. No. But I do get satisfaction from, you know, putting a really good article out there, putting a really good video out there and having people like it or watch it, you know, like, yeah, so I don't know if that had anything to do with the question, but, you know.
No, it's an open form question. It's what you grab from it. But you have to remember the very first interview you did, though. I mean, talk us through what went on with that.
Okay, the very first interview I did was Wizard World 2010. It was the first Wizard World. I interviewed Cameron Stewart. The night before, I had stayed up all night reading Sin Tulo, which is his webcomic. It's very surreal and very interesting. And because I had stayed up all night reading it and like binge read it, I had all these questions written out, and I was so prepared and planned out. And when I went to Wizard World the next day, it was the first year that Wizard World was going on, and it was the Friday, and the floor was completely empty, like so dead. That I went up to Cameron Stewart, who's a very popular artist, and there was nobody at his booth. There was like nobody there, and I was just like, "Oh, would you mind doing an interview?" And you know, he sees this cute girl in a white shirt. He's just like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And I set the camera down on the table, and I just had it rolling, and I just did it. And I didn't tell him it was my first interview or anything after, but I told him a year or so later, and he's like, "Really? This is your first interview?" So that was flattering, and it was nerve-wracking, but it was so much fun. And like, even though like I had nobody behind the camera, honestly, I set it down on the table, just like, all right, it's arced at us. Let's just do it, you know. But yeah, it turned out to be a good interview. You know, like I've had some really crummy interviews since then, where like the audio's been off or whatever. But that was good. It, you know, mostly if you want to do something, just don't spend time planning it. Just do it, and then you know you can get better as you go. I find the hardest part is just starting something.
Yeah, and sometimes you plan so much that you start to wonder, why am I really doing this? And then, you know, the same with how we got started. The very first interview, at least video interview that I did, was with Max Brooks, Z for Zombie. This is C2E 2000, I think it's 2010, 2009. Anyhow, I go up to him and I say, camera set up, you know, I'm ready and I'm doing the interview. I'm just about to start, and I say, Mark, Mel, Max, and he goes, okay, stop. And this is still recording. He goes, okay, what's my name? I Max. He goes, good. Okay, Arsenio, what did you want to talk to me about? And he started calling me Mark and Merv and just every other name out of the book. He was a great, wonderful guy, and I just felt like a total ass. And then I felt like a real ass because he's the son of Mel Brooks, my personal film idol.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Anyhow, but
you live and learn. You know, you had to do that first interview in order to learn how to prepare for one. You know.
Yeah. And as much research as you can do about a person, sometimes you just don't get to the questions you really want to ask them. And you know, I'm sure you've been in that situation where you have a really killer question and then it's like, oh, sorry, we got to go.
Yeah. I find there's ways around that. Usually the format I do interviews in, I do 10, 15-minute interviews, and I try to plan it out that way so I have time. And I try to, like, after I've done all my research, and I do tons of research, because research just makes a good interview, and after I've laid out my questions, I try to get a good introductory question, a good lead up, and then have, like, the question I really want to ask. And once I ask that question that shows that I've done all this research and I'm really interested in what they're doing, they in turn become more interested in the interview because they can see that I'm invested in it, and then I can get into the questions about their current work and trying to, you know, promote what they're doing now and all that other stuff. So there's definitely an art to it, and it takes a while, but yeah.
Research, that's a new concept.
Yeah. You mean you gotta read their comics before you interview them? Huh.
I mean, you can't just go in cold? Come on. No, it does take a lot, and truly, I've had to narrow down just our video interviews, not only because of noise and all that stuff, because equipment, that's another topic for another time.
I know. Ooh, trust me, I know.
But sometimes, like with you guys, you have you do 10, 15-minute interviews, great interviews. You know, you're on the ball. I really put it up there with like a Leanna Kay when she does her shows and everything like that. I mean, just the level of professionalism you portray in your interviews is amazing, and they're really great to listen to as well. So,
okay.
See, I got you to blush. Great. I can.
Yeah, you can check that off your like bucket list.
There you go. All right. And now we can see if she does a comedy sketch. But when it comes down to everything, though, that you keep doing this year after year, you know, the satisfaction of making these network contacts, making these connections that, you know, you can go to for future interviews, for, you know, tidbits on future projects they may be doing. You know, it's that level of professionalism that one has to portray in this industry. It's not about, well, he or she told me this secret, ooh, I gotta tell everyone. It's that confidence and that camaraderie that you have, that you can say, you know what, this is wonderful. I can't wait. Tell me when this comes out. Let me help you out any way I can, type deal.
Yeah,
you know, it's amazing.
Yeah, you do have to have this level of professionalism. I remember a couple years ago, this is before I had gotten the first issue of Kill Shakespeare, and I was hanging out with Andy B, and he just showed me pencils for the next 6 months. He's like, none of this is for blogging, but I'm really proud of this deer in this photo, and I really want to show it to you just because I just finished it, and I sat there and saw the first 6 months of, like, pencils for Kill Shakespeare, which was incredible, but it was like one of those things was like, I'm going to be professional, I'm going to bite my tongue, I'm not going to say anything, and, you know, just have that satisfaction on the inside.
Actually, we're going to have them on the show later on this year for sure, so I'm looking forward to that as well.
They're great guys. Yeah, really.
Possible another co-host gig, maybe?
Yeah, mm-hmm. Sure. I've already interviewed them like twice. I don't know how much I can do that though. Yeah, I've got one on my Vimeo page and one with Quintessential Comics. So, but yeah, you should totally.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely. They're on the docket. They're on the list, and um, but what about you? What about you personally? How are you making sure that you stay fresh and you stay interested in this type of endeavor you've entertained for these many years?
Well, it's always important to improve what you're doing. Like, you can't, like, the worst thing is to get stagnant, to remain the same, to just be happy with what you're doing. I've always got all these, like, little projects on the go where I'm helping out with this, or, like, I'm doing a project with that, and, it's also important to watch other people. Um, the way I develop my interview skills is really by, like, watching other interviews online, and not just that, like, I watch a lot of talk shows. I really like George Stroumboulopoulos. He's got, like, really good questions, and the way he delivers is really good. So there's still things I have to work on, and I would point that out, except now, if I point it out, you'll notice when you watch my videos that I say a lot, and so, but, like, it's a constant process, and it's all about, just trying to do what you're doing a little better every day, and, just rocking it.
So what about later this year though? What is besides Fan Expo, and when working with Sean Ward on everything? Sean's a great guy. Love his stuff, and just he's hilarious as well too. That's of course Seanward .com, is it?
.net, I think.
.net. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, Sean. But what about you in terms of Tdot? Like what else are you working on that we can look forward to seeing, maybe as a teaser, so to speak?
Well, currently I'm working on Star Wars Day, Toronto. May the 4th be with you.
Yeah.
Last year, Sean and I founded it and put it on at the Toronto Underground Cinema, and it was like so much fun and such a success that right there that night we booked the theater for the next year, being like, we're gonna do this again. We're gonna rock it. We have the 501st Garrison involved with that, and the part of the proceeds will be going to Sick Kids Hospital, and we have like special guests coming in for that, so that's gonna be really, like, super off the hook. So that's something you can really look forward to. Last year, I did the first annual TdotComics The Best Comic Shop Awards, which is like a series of awards, and it was People's Choice. So I went out to shops and I put flyers in every shop, and I encouraged them to get their customers to vote for them. But because it was the first year, a lot of the shops weren't really sure about it. They didn't really know where I was coming from or whatever. So the Silver Snail ended up taking, like, the cake. Like, there was 13 awards. They took 12. But hopefully this year it'll be a little more fair and balanced, because other people will do that. Because Silver Snail, honestly, they took flyers and they put it in everybody's comics on Wednesday, and, like, they pushed it, and that's how they won the awards. Now they have a really pretty plaque in in the shop, and Cyber City Comics also won for best graphic novels and trade selection. So it was really cool. I really liked the idea of having the best awards, so that way people will check out more shops, because people don't realize there's like 15 comic shops in Toronto. There's a lot. And they all have strengths and weaknesses. I mean, I go to the Silver Snail for events. I go to Paradise for back issues. I go to Beguiling to get really weird indie stuff that I know I won't find elsewhere. And, like, that's what I wanted the awards to be, was for people to understand that each store has its own highlights and to check out more stores. So that stuff I'm working on. I've got Quintessential Comics that's ongoing. Every Friday at lunchtime, a new episode of Quintessential Comics goes up. And I'm hoping to end the season soon so we can start a new season, because there's lots of feedback people have given me about how the show's going that I want to implement, and I sort of want to make sort of like a break in between, I guess, like the beta and, what it'll be when we design our set and we have like people who are, like, really dedicated to the project. So there's always stuff I'm working on, and so it's weird to say specifically, but, like, that's really what's going on right now. We got May the 4th be with you coming up. We got Quintessential Comics on the regular, and in the summer we'll have TdotComics is the best comic shop awards.
Nice, good stuff. Geez, and all I'll be doing is interviews and having the TGT tournament in August. That's about it. So, episodic battles. This is the 4th year we'll be doing that. But you know, it's great to see how productive you are with it, and you know, I don't know what else to really say about that other than, you know, I look forward to everything that you do. I look forward to seeing what new tricks you have up your sleeve, so to speak, and I want to see your productive talent grow when it comes to your video stuff, because I'm using your works as a guideline for TGT in the future as well. So, you know, I may have to take a little hints from maybe a few of your questions as well too in the upcoming convention season. So I look forward to going through your backlog, your archive of your interviews, as well as your articles too. You have some really wonderfully written articles.
Well, I can't take all the credit for the articles. We have some amazing contributors on TdotComics. I would not be where I am right now without the help of a bunch of writers. Some people just submit 2 or 3 articles, and some have submitted, you know, an article a week for a couple months. And like now, we're at a point where we can update every weekday, which is amazing. Mondays we got Bags and Board. Fridays we had Quintessential Comics, and then during the week, during the other 3 days, we just got awesome written reviews or comments, and it's just, I'm so lucky to have such amazing volunteers helping me out with TdotComics.
And of course, you're always up for other other articles and everything like that as well.
Yeah, I'm always accepting suggestions. I'm always accepting contributors. Whenever people come to me and they're like, "Hey, I'd really like to write an article for TdotComics," yes, do it. Send me an email, tdotcomics@gmail.com. You know, I'm always up for collaboration. When I did after the Best Comic Shop Awards, I interviewed the Silver Snail as well as like presented them the award, and I sort of collaborated on that video with Dalton Sharp, because he was like, "Oh, Dalton Sharp from Sequential." He was like, "Oh, well, I want to interview the Silver Snail, so why don't we just do it at the same time and save them the trouble?" And so I was like, "Yeah, sure." You know, I feel like the most important thing is just to be open to the possibility of like anything, just to see it through, because the worst that happens is that it doesn't work out, but you have another idea for later, you know?
Definitely. And you know, the industry isn't going away anytime soon.
No.
And
they need us for movie ideas. So
exactly. Or reboots for that matter. I mean, you know, the digital age, as you mentioned previously earlier on, is incredible, and we're just scratching the surface. It's just like when the internet was created, when we started seeing webcomics 12, 15 years ago. This digital age is just that next step. You know, people that want to get published, bam, there's an iPad app. If you want to get on Comixology or graphically, it's not hard to do. If you want to showcase your talent, you have Twitter, Facebook, Google+, you know, and I'm sure that'll change in the future.
It's awesome. You know, like now that with the internet, with graphically, with everything, if you want to do something, you don't have to wait for somebody else to give you the opportunity. You just got to do it, which is great, but it gives people who are lazy no excuse, pretty much. It's like, damn it, no. I can't get away with being all like, I can't get published, because you can totally do it yourself.
Lies. You just want to sit back and play UFC on the 360. Yeah, I know
you.
Sure.
Link face to, you know, create your comic. Oh man, everybody's got their own thing.
That's true. It's what you work with. See, even PD agrees with that. So, you know.
Yep, on that one, PD.
Yep. Good one. Good job. All right. Anything else to add? No? Good. All right. So he's crawling over to his food now because, you know, it's a break for him. But when it comes down to it, though, you know, where do you see yourself with TdotComics, say, in 5 or so years?
Well, it's a tough question because I don't even know if T.Comics is going to be around in 5 years. I might have evolved past that. Hopefully, even if I'm some sort of big Hollywood TV personality. Sorry, these are just like my dreams running rampant on your podcast. I still hope that T.Comics is online and has a place within the community, and not only a place, but a prominent place, and becomes better. It's interesting because now I'm in a state where I can start making money. I have enough of a following. Like, I don't have any ads up on my site, but I could if I wanted to now. I could also like go to conventions and sell things. So I have to sort of figure out a business plan and like where to go from here and like technical, boring, bureaucratic stuff. So we'll see how that goes because I sort of don't do well at that whole planning thing. Other people can plan. But I don't know. I feel like in 5 years, I'm going to be the geek girl on TV telling you, what comics you should read. I'm going to be bringing that to you from a greater space. Like, I do see myself on TV in 5 years, like on Space or on Sci-Fi or something, being a TV personality that promotes the comics community and that does that truthfully. Like, that's honestly it. That'd be awesome. I'm working to get there, so we'll see how that turns out.
I'll join you. Works for me. It's great to see that you have a goal, and business plans aside, whenever you yes, I'm getting to that. Hang on a second. Business plans aside and all that stuff, you're loving what you do, and you have a great support with the people that you work with and family that finally, hopefully, get where you are right now. Is there anything else? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I actually just wanted to add that for people who are starting up things online, don't get discouraged if you don't get feedback right away. Because it takes a while for the internet to catch up. It really does. Now that I've done this for a couple of years, I'm being approached more and more like, this TV show emailed me. They're like an antiques roadshow for like collecting things, and they're like, oh, how do we contact collectors in Toronto? I'm like, I can put a thing up on TdotComics. And a month ago, I got contacted from Marketing Magazine to do a panel at Social Media Week on young influencers, and I'm like, sure, I'm some sort of an expert. Yes, yes.
Why not?
So it really does take a while for people to notice what you're doing, but just because you don't get feedback right away doesn't mean you should stop what you're doing. And like that's really the most important thing is like no matter what you're doing, whether it's a webcomic or a blog or a Tumblr or photojournalism or like whatever it is you do, collecting, just keep doing it and people will notice eventually. And like when people notice, like people will come to my site now, they see like years of backlog, years of information, and like that stuff isn't going to go away. Like my older interviews aren't going to disappear, so I always sort of have that backing me up, and I feel like that's like the best thing to, it's like, okay, well, I'm not doing anything this week, but that doesn't mean, but I still have all this stuff that I've done, and that's not going anywhere. And people will notice. It just takes time.
Yeah, and it's not like you can grab them off the street and say, listen to this.
Listen!
Was there anything else I didn't get to touch upon in this interview here that you'd like to share?
No, we talked about a lot. This has been really great. This has been awesome. Like, I don't get to talk about this as much as I'd like to, so thank you so much for giving me a forum to discuss it.
Nope.
If it's cool with you, I'd love to provide a series of plugs now.
Have at it. This is the plug section.
Plug section! Prepare to be amazed. So follow me on Twitter. I'm at T.Comics, Tdot, because it's all about comics and T-Dot City. What? Yeah, I spell terribly. I have no spelling. Quintessential Comics is spelled with 2 N's, because I'm Alice Quinn, and Comics has an X, because it's about more indie comics than, like, industry stuff. So that's on YouTube. I also have a channel on Vimeo, Vimeo/TdotComics. Email me if you have any questions or if you want to contribute or collaborate or have any ideas or just want to say hey, go ahead, email me, tdotcomics@gmail.com. And of course, check out the website, t.comics.ca. And, you'll find amazing things on there, so check it out.
And of course, the Twitters, you're always active with the Twitters.
Yeah, the Twitter is like, it's not just the T.Comics Twitter, it's my personal Twitter, so you'll get all my Vampire Diaries squee tweets. Because, oh my god. Did you see Fringe last night? Okay, sorry. Let me just not go on a tangent here about TV. TV is like my second love after comics.
Oh, I have to, yeah. I know exactly what you mean. I don't have an actual TV, so I have to like...
Oh, I don't actually have a TV either. I have a TV in my apartment. I just use the internet. I don't have a home phone. I just use my cell phone. I don't buy a lot of comics. I use the library.
Exactly. You got to be interactive.
Interactive, yeah.
No, that's great. I love it. I want to keep up to date with you. I'd love to collaborate on any projects that you have, or if I have anything coming down the pipe, I'd love to share it with you as well.
Listen, at the next convention, let's do like a double interview. We'll tag team it.
Sweet. What? Same guest?
Yeah, same guest. We'll just like, we'll be on either side and just be like, hey, what do you think about this? And then you'll be like, hey, and he'll just be like, whoa, and it'll be crazy.
You pick the guest, I'll be there.
Yeah, I can book a guest.
Sweet, yeah. You have a few more contacts than I have.
Yeah, I talk to a lot of people.
Yeah, I'm
really sorry if I forget your names. I'm really sorry. It's the worst. It's the worst.
Oh. Hey, you.
You!
Look at the name tag
you again.
It's like, and you just reach for their name tag. Bob. Yes, there we go. All right, good stuff. All right, well, this is a great interview. I love it. We're going to stop it here now, just because. And this is the very first video interview we've done over Skype, so we'll see how that turns out as well too.
Like, it's been really fun.
No, anytime else for sure. And again, see t.comics.ca. It's tdotcomics.ca. Great website. Check her out, and you'll be amazed at the not only level of talent that she has, that Alice has here, but the talent of guests that she has on the show as well. Bye.